Joining us now for Labour is the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Hello to you, Ms Reeves. Thanks for joining us. You've got your hands full now that they've got their act together with Jeremy Hunt.
The problem is, Kay, is that so much damage has already been done. This was a crisis made in Downing Street, but it is ordinary working people who are paying the price with higher mortgage costs and higher borrowing costs. And that's still the same today as it was yesterday before these chaotic zigzagging U-turns.
But he knows that, doesn't he? And he's scrapped all of the... almost all of the mini-budget, and it does look as though he's going to potentially increase taxes come the 31st of October, which is exactly what Labour would do, isn't it?
The problem is, though, is that anybody who's coming off a fixed-rate mortgage deal, and there's 1.8 million people in that situation just by the end of next year, is looking at paying now £500 a month more on average because of the problems that the Tories have created. And any combination of Tory prime ministers and chancellors, and we've now seen 4 Conservative chancellors in just 4 months, isn't going to be able to undo that damage that has been done both with our international standing and with our credibility in financial markets. And we're seeing that today when mortgage rates continue to go up for ordinary working people.
What would you do? Put taxes up?
Well, I've said, and you know, Kay, I've said this to you on many occasions, that the government should expand the windfall tax on the big profits that North Sea oil and gas companies are making. The government yesterday reduced the amount of support that was available for families and businesses with their energy bills, but he refused to commit to an expansion of the windfall tax that would help people with their gas and electricity bills. I've also said that if you make Britain your home, you should pay your taxes here. And that's why, as a Labour government, we would abolish the non-dom tax status that would bring in £3 billion a year. The Chancellor yesterday, Kay, spoke about eye-wateringly difficult decisions. I don't think it is difficult to ask people who make Britain their home to pay their taxes here. I don't think that is difficult. I don't think it is difficult to ask oil and gas giants who are making billions and billions of pounds of profit to pay a bit more in tax. Those are just some of the differences between what an incoming Labour government would do compared with what this Conservative government is doing.
What about income tax? How difficult would it be to put that up?
Well, I don't want income tax to go up. I want taxes on working people to be low, which is why, again, for all of this year, I've been saying that increasing national insurance was the wrong priority in the middle of a cost of living crisis. To increase taxes on working people and the businesses who employ them was a mistake. I want to see a fair tax system. At the moment, though, those with the broadest shoulders under the Conservatives bear the lightest load. And that isn't by accident. That is by the choices of this Conservative government, not just in the last 40 days under Liz Truss's leadership, but the last 12 years of Conservative government.
You've also said this morning that you oppose cuts to the police, the NHS and schools. How are you going to balance the books?
Well, you know that we so far have no independent forecast from the Office for Budget Responsibility. So none of us know the extent of the damage that the Conservatives have done to our public finances. But the truth is, a month ago, nobody was talking about cuts to public spending. The only reason that these cuts are now on the agenda is because of the mess that the Conservatives have made. Now, you know, an arsonist is still an arsonist, even when they turn up at the burning building with a bucket of water. This Conservative government have put the economy up in flames, and they are not the people to put out the fire. That is why it's time for not just another Conservative Prime Minister or another Conservative Chancellor. It's time for real change and a Labour government that would always put financial stability, fiscal responsibility first, with a real plan to grow the economy, recognising that growth and prosperity comes from the efforts of millions of working people and thousands of ordinary businesses.
The country obviously is in economic crisis, but how much do you think the public appreciates the sort of name-calling that we've seen from people like your leader, Sir Keir Starmer, allegedly saying about Jeremy Hunt, if you ever need a sign of a dying government, it's surely the return of Jeremy Hunt, the man who butchered the NHS, risen from his political grave. I mean, it's not really appropriate to use that sort of language. Surely that's below his eye level.
Well, the latest chancellor was one of the key architects of austerity season one. And now he comes to the House of Commons and says that what is needed to fix the mess that he inherited from his own government is austerity season two. Well, the truth is, austerity season one killed off the economic recovery, and now public services are on their knees. And the idea that what we need is another round of cuts to essential public services like our health service, like our schools and our police forces, I just do not accept that. And the only reason why we are in this position today is because the damage that the Conservatives have caused. We don't need any more damage. We need a government now that puts economic stability, respect for economic institutions, and growing our economy through the efforts of millions of working people first. The Conservatives cannot fix the damage that they've done. It's time for real change.
Yeah, but, you know, you talked about windfall taxes. I mean, Jeremy Hunt has not ruled out a windfall tax. He says, I am not against the principle of taxing profits that are genuine windfalls. Nothing's off the table.
Well, get on with it. I've been saying for months and months that the government should expand the windfall tax. But what the government keep doing is borrowing more money, adding to the national debt and failing to support families and pensioners in the way that is absolutely needed during a cost of living crisis. So, you know, to be honest, I think many of us are sick and tired of words. What we need is action to help people with the cost of living crisis, to restore economic and financial stability, and also a real plan to grow the economy. You know, I've set out Labour's Green Prosperity Plan to invest in tidal, in new nuclear, in floating offshore wind and carbon capture and storage, a modern industrial strategy to work in partnership with businesses, reforming the outdated business rate system to help our small businesses and high streets to thrive. A real plan for growth and prosperity in all parts of the country, not just a failed trickle-down economics of the Conservatives.
Talk to me about coordinated strike action, a general strike this winter. Is that something that Labour supports?
I don't want to see a general strike, but I do understand why working people, when they are faced with the inflation that we see today, when they are faced with the increases in mortgage rates that families and working people, whether they work in the public or the private sector, are facing, I can understand why people are standing up for their rights and demanding higher pay. We didn't see this sort of industrial action under the last Labour government because the last Labour government respected ordinary working people and worked with those industries and also with those trade unions to resolve industrial disputes rather than fanning the flames of them. So instead of fanning the flames, I would urge the government ministers to get round the table with those industries and with those trade unions to resolve these problems, because at the moment we've got working people who are struggling with the rising cost of living, and we've also got working people who rely on those essential services who are struggling to get to work. And so, you know, we've got to resolve this rather than the government just seeing this as another issue to divide people rather than trying to bring the country together.
What do you make of Sir Keir backing Tom Watson for a peerage?
I've got a lot of time for Tom Watson. He was deputy leader of the Labour Party. I think he's got an important contribution to make. I also welcome the appointment of my old colleague Ruth Smeeth to the House of Lords. She was a fantastic member of Parliament, but she also faced a lot of abuse as a member of Parliament and as a Labour member of Parliament for being a Jewish woman. And Keir's efforts to stamp out anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, I think, is one of the things that he deserves most credit and respect for, because anti-Semitism and racism was a stain on the Labour Party. Keir's first priority when he became leader of the Labour Party was to root that out. He has done that, and I think it is wonderful that Ruth Smeeth will now be back in Parliament as a baroness in the House of Lords.
Interesting that you use the word stain. It's the same word that Lord Lamont has used, saying it's a stain on the House of Lords to give Tom Watson a life peerage. Is it acceptable that someone who supported false claims about a paedophile ring within Westminster is being rewarded in this way?
Well, Norman Lamont, of course, was the last Chancellor to crash the economy with Black Wednesday. Well, I think it is an important point because, you know, he was the last Chancellor who destroyed Britain's economic credibility and saw mortgage rates go through the roof. Look,
Yeah, but this
Tom Watson
fantasist
has now...
Carl Beach ruined people's lives, and Tom Watson supported him.
Well, look, Tom Watson has made a number of contributions. He was wrong on that issue, but he has made many contributions as a parliamentarian, as deputy leader of the Labour Party, and he's been rewarded with a position now in the House of Lords. But, I'm not going to take any lessons from Lord Lamont, the man who previously crashed our economy.
I can't believe that the one day that you come into Westminster and I'm here in Downing Street, who knows, you might be behind the door of number 11 before too long. Let's wait and see. It's good to see you as always. Thank you.